I've always considered large production monitors to be in the nice but maybe not necessary category of filmmaking gear. Minimalist filmmaking is kind of my jam, so for something like this to make it onto one of my sets, well, it really has to be bringing something to the table. Hey, my name's Troy Mayers. I am pumped to have you here. Today on the bench, we have the OSEE Megamon 15 production monitor kit. Roll intro. We'll start by laying our foundation. We're going to go through everything that comes with this product out of the box, as well as some of the technical specifications of the OSEE Megamon 15. Then we're going to build on that by going through an actual demonstration of the product and how to use it, and we'll cap it off with some of my pros and cons, you know those are coming, as well as how I use this as a solo filmmaker, as well as on crude productions. So let's wind this back and get this thing unboxed. When you open up that bag, you'll be greeted right away with the star of the show, the Megamon 15 monitor. You have a 15.4-inch screen, 1920 by 1200 Full HD display, 1000 nits of brightness, HDR capabilities, 10-bit color depth, 100% Rec 709 reproduction, and you'll get support for color calibration via the USB port. Now that we've officially got this unboxed, let's continue our tour. Across the front, you're going to find, first off, the power button, and I'll get this turned on so you can get a feel for how long it takes to get itself started up. You're going to find various menu interface buttons along the front, as well as 4 custom function buttons that you can set however you see fit, as well as a USB-A port and a 3.5 jack. Now, the real magic takes place here on the back of the monitor. Up on the top left, I have the cheese plate installed up here so I can rig up my wireless receiver unit. Below that, you're going to find a couple SDI ports. 2 of them are SDI in ports. Then there's an SDI out port as well as video in as well, right? Yep, video in. Below those, you're going to find HDMI in, just one of those, as well as audio in and a remote port. All right, coming right down the pipe, you're going to have, in this situation, the V-mount plate, and I've got the V-mount battery powering this whole setup right now. And below that, I've got the C-stand adapter rigged up there as well. I like to rock this most of the time with the tabletop feet installed. This lives in the studio for most of its life, except for when I want to take it with me on a set. It'll take just 4 screws to get these tabletop feet off, and then you can put this back in its portable carrying case. That bag can double as a sun hood in the event that you find yourself shooting outside or you are in direct sunlight and you're having a hard time seeing the screen. That bag will give you the sun hood that you need. So now we've got our foundation set and we can move on to actually using this product. One of the first things you'll need to do is actually supply power to the unit itself. So we've got 2 options for that, and it's going to depend on personal preference really, or what you have available to you. When you can, I always prefer to use direct power, which is an option that we have here. If you can get yourself to house power, that's going to be your best bet. If you can't, if you're out on location or you don't have a spare outlet nearby, that's where you can run off of V-mount or gold mount batteries, depending on the kit that you choose. I've got the V-mount option, so I'm going to slot on one of my V-mount batteries on the back there, and that's going to be able to power the monitor. And then this battery itself also has D-tap out ports on it, which I'm going to use to power my wireless receiver. I would have liked to have seen some kind of built-in power out option coming from the monitor itself. That way I could plug in a V-mount here and have that power my receiver, or better yet, if I was on house power, it could supply power to some type of power out so I could run my receiver that I'm going to attach up here in a moment indefinitely. Once we've got power to the monitor, well, we're basically halfway done. Now we just need to get a video feed into the monitor, either via HDMI or one of our SDI ports. Okay, so now I just need to get power over here to my receiver, and I'm going to pull off my V-mount battery for that. Okay, so we'll get that flipped on, and this thing is now ready to rock. So let's take a tour of the interface then. We'll start with our function buttons. So I have function button 1 mapped to false color. And what I like about their implementation of false color here is that we get a legend across the bottom so we can see exactly where our values are landing. Tap that to turn it off. Function button 2 is going to be a waveform that I have set up down here to appear in the corner. Function button 3 is set up as custom aspect markers. I often like to shoot stuff in a 2:3:9 aspect ratio, so that's what I've got it mapped to now. And then function button 4 is a LUT. All right, so we've made it through all the technical jargon. We've made it through the product specifications. We've got a good understanding of what this product is and how to use it. So let's get into some of the less tangible things. You got it. The pros and cons. You know I love a good pros and cons list. So let's begin. Our first pro is having a large screen to view on. That sounds obvious, but here's the deal. I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm a minimalist filmmaker. Minimalist? I'm so minimalist, I don't even pronounce the whole word. I'm a minimalist. I'm a minimalist filmmaker. That really feels ironic that the word minimalist is so excessively long and has so many syllables. Sorry. Having a large screen is really great. And I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I don't like to bring a lot of things on set, especially if they're somewhat unnecessary. There is a screen that's built onto the back of many cameras that you can use to get a feel for your image. Here's the deal. It's not telling half the story that this monitor is going to tell, specifically when it comes to focus, okay? I've been able to properly expose images via mirrorless cameras, but many of them don't come with a false color option. This does. False color is my favorite way to judge and assess my exposure within an image, so I do like having that. But what is really critical, you know, having false color isn't critical. What is critical is getting focus right in camera, and you can't fix that in post later. That small screen is not going to give you a feel for what exactly is in focus. More specifically, your depth of field. If you're shooting any kind of product stuff or even with people, if you're doing an interview and you don't want to have somebody's eye in focus but their ear out of focus, you're never going to be able to judge depth of field on a small built-in LCD screen on the back of your camera. You're going to need something that's at least this large to be able to better assess that you have critical focus as well as the actual depth of field. That's something that I didn't know I was missing, but I've really come to love with having a large monitor. And unfortunately, I'm a little bit spoiled now because I'm having a hard time going back and not having something that I can view my image on. That's a real pro. And the biggest pro as to why you would buy this is to give yourself that larger screen to view your image on, as well as from a client perspective, when I have clients on set with me, when I have other crew members on set with me, more of us can gather around the monitor. We don't have to be hovering over the camera all the time. You can have a second set of eyes on the image, which is always a good thing. We're all fantastic cinematographers out there. That's great, but the best work is going to come out of being collaborative and being open to other people's suggestions and ideas. So get as many eyes as you can on your image to make sure that you're getting the best image possible, right? Pro number 2, my second pro, and I kind of just touched on this in my previous rant, and that is the false color implementation. Again, on mirrorless cameras, you're usually not getting a false color reading, and this one does it really well. It's got a nice gradient. Sometimes I find the RE false color to be a little bit confusing because there's a lot of variations of gray. They provide a nice gradient here with an on-screen legend, so you always know exactly where the values are falling within your image so that you can better expose and better light your frame, which is ultimately going to make your images look better. So that's always good because we are here to become the best filmmakers that we can become. My third and final pro is going to be the portability and usefulness in relation to its size and weight. That's always the calculation that I'm running in my head when it comes down to what type of gear I want to bring with me. How useful is it and how hard is it going to be to get it on set? And I think that this tips the scale. This tips the scale towards, which way is it to you guys? This tips the scale to being more useful than it is heavy and in the way. I don't know if that makes any sense. That's a really weird, intangible, non-concrete figure to give you, but we're rocking with it. Here's my meter, and it's if it's above 50%, it gets to come, and we're sitting over here. What am I doing? We're sitting over here. It provides more value than it does. It provides more value than it does friction. Yeah, we'll go with that. Nothing's perfect though, and this does have a few cons, a couple things that I'd like to see implemented differently. I touched on it a little bit before, and that first con is going to be not having a dedicated power out solution. That would be really nice because I think this unit is going to be run off of wireless transmitters and receivers primarily. I think it would really make sense to be able to have a DC out port that I could use to power the receiver unit itself. So that way I could plug this into a wall and never have to worry about this whole setup needing power or needing to bring a battery for it. The next con that I have for you is the menu system. It is a little bit vintage. Feels like a kind word to say for it. It's a little bit outdated in comparison to other menu systems I've used. The menu system in here is pretty robust in that there are a lot of pages and then sub-pages, but it can be a little bit difficult to figure out exactly what it is that you're trying to do within the menu system. All right, cool. These are the pros and cons of this monitor in my experience. I've had this for quite a while. I owe an apology to OSEE for how long it's taken me to get this review out, but this does mean I've gotten quite a bit of time with the monitor to figure out what those pros and cons were, as well as figuring out how this fits into my workflow. So I've been using this a lot more as a solo filmmaker than I maybe anticipated when I first got it. I expected to use it on my crude productions or when I have clients on set with me, especially locally. This doesn't come with me if I'm getting on a plane, but anything I'm doing here local, this is generally coming with me. There you have it. Those are my thoughts on the OSEE Megamon 15 production monitor kit. Thank you, OSEE, for sending this my way and for spoiling on-camera monitors for me. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down in the comment section below. I'll catch you down there. Thank you for watching. Happy shooting out there. God bless.
We know who he is. Oh,